I reflect on poverty as being about, it's obviously about money, but it's also about being marginalized from a lot of the mainstream opportunities in life. The lived experience of poverty has many faces. And people might think it is about money. It is about money, of course it's about money, but it's about an awful lot more than money. It's about a whole sort of gap between the reality of people's lives and the reality of what's being offered by different service systems, housing systems, healthcare systems, education systems, disability support, social services. You know, say, can they fill in the form? Can they answer the questions? Can they understand the big words? Does the system accommodate their needs? Does the system recognize that maybe you have to make a different kind of offering or a different kind of information system to make sure that people understand what's being asked? You know, I spoke about poor English, maybe some families coming from abroad who don't have great English, but even people who are native to the country may not understand the big language, the big words that big systems use, and those are ways in which you're kind of made feel apart. There's a whole sort of issue, I think, about, in some ways, the sort of psychological gap that opens up, this kind of psychological segregation, that people feel that they don't quite belong, they don't quite fit in. And I think so events like October 17th are very important in terms of maybe trying to sensitize different systems, school systems, health systems, social services, all of those different public services to the needs of people who maybe aren't trained, in a sense, to deal with bureaucracies. Because a lot of middle class people kind of grow up almost, they don't realize about their life. Their whole life has been some form of training of how to speak the language, how to talk the language of bureaucrats. You know, so poverty is about maybe having to play the game but not knowing the rules a lot of the time. The 17th of October is an important starting point each year to hopefully promote conversation and dialogue between people who maybe come from similar or different backgrounds to find common ground. For anyone who's the opportunity to be there, it's really quite an amazing experience. It's a really great privilege to be there, to hear people speaking directly from the heart about their own experience. Most of the people who are speaking there are people who are talking about their own experience of poverty. And too often the voices of people who actually live in poverty and live with poverty, those voices are not heard. It's other people who are speaking about poverty, not the people who are actually the real experts, who are the people who have to endure day in, day out the realities and hardships of poverty. So the 17th of October I think is really important, because here is a time when people come to listen to people who have experience of poverty, and very often those people are speaking for the first time in public. It's a very tough ask to come and say to people, will you come and talk about your own very personal experience, your own life? But not only that, but to speak in public, which is one of the hardest things you can ask anyone to do, and sometimes this is the first time people have done it. So it's a very brave step for people to do that. And it's very inspiring to hear people and see people do that, and it makes a big impact on the audience. And I mean, one of the points of this day is to create some kind of a dialogue, maybe on the day, but also maybe continuing afterwards, that people listen to these experiences and find common ground. A lot of these ideas come from disability, where you know the disability world has really led a lot on trying to reform systems so that they are more accommodating to people with different needs and backgrounds. So if you can't hear very well, if you can't see very well, if you can't speak very well, the system should be still able to cater for you. And similarly, if you can't understand the rules, the system should be able to cater for you. It's up to the system to explain its own rules better. I'm just using that as an example of how the system should be more person-centered, more service user-centered. And that would be a great benefit to many people who come from less well-off backgrounds, which is maybe those backgrounds have impaired their learning and their educational progress and their confidence. I think that's a really important idea, that gender and ethnicity and poverty and health, or absence of health and so on, and educational disadvantage, all these things, when you mix them together, they really create quite a lot of barriers for people, and can be very challenging challenging to break through those barriers for many people. So that's what I think. That's one of the important messages for events like October 17th, to really try and raise awareness in the public mind and in the public service mind, that we have to kind of be more savvy about the realities of people's lives. We need to go back to remember that we are each human being, and that we kind of need to go back to the basic of treating people the way we want to be treated ourselves. And I think in a situation where there's a power difference, the person with more power has to operate with more sensitivity and more respect and more awareness of their power. And that's why October 17th is very important. It's a starting point of a conversation or a reflection or a dialogue potentially. The people who are there, and hopefully that other people who aren't even there physically will still connect with what's happening there by reading about it in the newspaper, listening to it on a radio program, or watching a piece of video or something like that, and that it will also prompt people like me and others to kind of try and bring into our daily work more reflection on these issues. The important thing about lived experience is that it is, it's very powerful because it's an authentic account of people's lived realities. It's not somebody talking about something. It's about talking from the heart, from the gut, from their inner selves, about themselves and their experience. That's very powerful. What really connects with people is something that's authentic, that's genuine, that's real, that's personal. It's a chance to hear authentic testimony about realities that maybe a lot of people don't have to think about that much. But it's also a chance to feel heard, and that's very precious. That feeling heard, maybe for the first time, is actually maybe the start of a journey that will lead on to better things in people's lives, in terms of maybe gaining the confidence to go back to study, or gain the confidence to look for support for certain issues in their lives. Feeling heard, telling your genuine, honest, authentic experience and story is very powerful for both sides, the people listening and the people telling.